Good evening, I'm Brian Reagan, this is
Tyler Kelly.
and we welcome you to our Twilight Talks. Tonight we look at 1 Chronicles 13, the chapter of good intentions. Go ahead, Tyler.
And David consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds and with every leader. And David said to all the assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is of the Lord our God, let us send out to our brethren everywhere who are left in all the lands of Israel, and with them to the priests and Levites who are in their cities and their common lands, that they may gather together to us. And let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we have not inquired at all since the days of Saul." Then all the assembly said they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. So David gathered all Israel together, from Shihor in Egypt to as far as the entrance of Hanoth, to bring the ark of God from Kiriath Jearim. And David and all Israel went up to Baalah, to Kiriath Jearim, which belonged to Judah, to bring up from there the ark of God, the Lord, who dwells between the cherubim, where his name is proclaimed. So they carried the ark of God on a new cart from the house of Abinadab, and Uzzah and Ahio drove the cart. And David and all Israel played music before God with all their might, with singing on harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, on cymbals, and with trumpets. And when they came to Chidon's threshing floor, Uzzah put his hand to hold the ark, for the oxen stumbled. And the anger of the Lord was aroused against Uzzah, and he struck him because he put his hand to the ark, and he died there before God. And David became angry because of the Lord's outbreak against Uzzah. Therefore that place is called Perez Uzzah to this day. David was afraid of God that day, saying, "How can I bring the ark of God to me?" So David would not move the ark with him into the city of David, but took it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that he had.
All right, so a lot of things going on here. First of all, when we read the Torah, when we read Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, the books that have the rules, you never find where it says to carry the ark of God on an ox cart being drawn by animals.
It had poles.
Yeah, it had poles. And the way the Levites were supposed to carry it was on their shoulders. Because the Ark of the Covenant was 2 pieces. There were 2 pieces to it. The ark part, which was the square box. Then the lid for the ark was the mercy seat. But it had cherubim that were stretched over that would look down. Because the Ark of the Covenant was the symbolic throne of God on the earth in the tabernacle. That's what it represents. When you go to the book of Hebrews, you'll find in Hebrews chapter 8 where the Lord said, "See that you make all things shown to you according to the pattern that you saw when you were on the mountain." Talking about the tabernacle. The tabernacle on earth was a mini model of what Moses saw in the heavenlies. And so the ark of God wasn't supposed to be pulled around on a cart with a mercy seat. It was supposed to be carried on the shoulder so that people would be reminded that it was the king of all creation. That was what it symbolized. And so what happens? David didn't go to the word. He had high priests. He had priests who would have told him what the law said. But he didn't check the book. And Uzzah, with good intention. I mean, I can't blame Uzzah. Just out of sheer reflex, I imagine that Uzzah touched it. But that begs the other question. How come it wasn't covered up? You see, the Ark of the Covenant was supposed to have been covered when people carried it too. It was supposed to be covered. There was an entire process that's laid out about how to move the ark. And the poles would actually go in while it was still hidden, so that when they took it out, It was never exposed to this world. That was how it was designed. And Uzzah, with good intention, puts his hand out to steady it. And David's mad at the Lord. This is David's initial fault. How come God did this? Well, David, God didn't do it. You did it, David. And that's the other challenge. You see, when we start to look at the blessing of the Lord or the cursing of the Lord, did God kill Uzzah? Yes and no. Who really killed Uzzah? What's your assessment, Tyler?
Uzzah.
Nah, David killed Uzzah. David put Uzzah in the wrong place at the wrong time, in proximity to the wrong item. Everything David set up about this situation was wrong. Everyone else was obeying David. But David wasn't obeying the Lord. And therefore, everyone else suffered because of David. Most people don't talk about this as one of David's failures. This was a failure of David. Uzzah died because David didn't follow the instructions. You say, well, Uzzah died because he didn't follow the instructions too. Generally speaking, a people never rise above their rulers. And in the situation of a king, when a king says something, do you realize the only person who ever countermanded David and told him, you're wrong? There's only one guy who ever did that. You remember who that was, Tyler?
Nathan.
No. Nathan was sent as an emissary from the Lord. I'm not talking about a prophet. Joab. Joab was the only guy who ever looked at David and said, don't you do this, man. This is wrong. And David's like, I don't care. I'm doing it, so go obey. In America, we have a hard time understanding how come everybody did this? Because David's king. You don't question a king. When a king gives an order, that's law. When a king speaks, yeah. So you say, what's the lesson here? Make sure you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right things, the right way, and you'll be blessed. It sat in the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months. And God decided to bless the house of Obed-Edom. And you'll see, as the story goes on, if you read Kings and Chronicles on this event, not Kings, but Samuel and Chronicles on this event, what you'll see is, once David realized the house of Obed-Edom was blessed, it did something. It provoked him to call the Levites and say, what does the book say about how we're supposed to get this thing back so we can get in under the blessing? Amazing. God blessed someone else to get David's attention for David to actually follow the rules on how to get it back home and how to be blessed. Seems like there's a theme with this blessing and cursing thing in the Bible, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some other thoughts on this?
No, sir.
You have no thoughts on poor dead Uzzah?
No.
Okay. Well, our little kids had it. They sang a song called Poor Dead Uzzah when they learned about this a few years back. God bless little kids, man. They get a ton out of Bible study. So with that, I'm Brian Reagan. This is
Tyler Galley.
We bid you good night.